Okay, we're live. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It is a beautiful, semi beautiful Sunday morning, very fall, very autumnish day here in Atlanta, Georgia. Carlos, how's the weather out there?
Well, it's a little bit cloudy out here, a little chill, but it's a beautiful day, beautiful Sunday here, Halloween night.
Oh, yes, Halloween.
There's a lot of stuff happening today. There's an event happening over at the Bernie's Coffee Shop where they have a horror night. So you
Ooh.
come out and check that out.
Are you
But
going to dress
overall,
up for that?
beautiful. Yeah, beautiful Sunday.
Are you going to dress up? And if so, as
I'm already
what?
dressed up. I'm already dressed up.
No, you need a Halloween costume for that. It's Halloween.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Maybe as a mailman.
Is it 7 to 10?
Yes. Yes.
If I get there at 9, 9:30, 9:50. I hope they keep it open a little later.
Yeah,
well,
just get there like 30 seconds before 10.
right.
Yeah.
We turned it over the weekend, so it's been difficult because we've been having to go and support her out there. So we're gonna try to make it to Bernie's Coffee Shop tonight.
All right, sounds good, boys. So thank you everyone for joining us. Why don't we get started? I'm Margot Paez. I'm a scientist, engineer, and occasional journalist. And over somewhere on this side, there, I'm virtually hugging Carlos. He is an amazing grassroots organizer and also co-host of the show you're watching, Stand Up Fight Back, where we discuss strategy and analysis for the progressive movement. Today we have a really, really special guest. We've had him on the show before, but it's been a little bit of a while since then. We have Alan Minsky with us today. He's the executive director of Progressive Democrats of America, PDA. Alan, before we move on, I was wondering if you would consider changing the name from PDA to PWHDA, as in Progressives Who Hate Democrats of America. And I'm just wondering if that's on the table.
That implies we hate the rank and file. We actually, well, I've been trying to come up with the right term for what we're trying to do in the Democratic Party and what PDA really has always been trying to do since its inception, but is now since the Bernie Sanders race of 2015. And then the next time he ran and pretty much should have also won the nomination in 2020. It's more of a reality, which is a takeover of the party by progressives. And I think what we actually have are, even in states that Bernie didn't do well, and even in districts that Bernie didn't do well. I think one of the paradoxes, by the way, we have, if you go back and look at how Hillary Clinton did against Bernie Sanders, in the very districts that are held by Ilhan Omar, Cori Bush, AOC, you'll see that Bernie did quite poorly. And I think what that betrays is something that's also true in the Southeast, where Bernie did quite poorly. We're on a significant set of issues, economic issues in particular. You'll see that the Democratic base, even though they didn't vote for Bernie, are in line with Bernie's, especially economic policies. And so we believe that the base of the party, in other words, the vast majority of Democrats who vote Democratic, I mean, vast, maybe, 60, 65%. I don't want to downplay that there is this sizable portion of, say, what sometimes is casually referred to as the professional managerial class inside the Democratic Party. But the base of the party supports Bernie's policies. In fact, probably a third to half of the people who are upper middle class people have gone to college also support those policies that are voting Democrat. So 75% of the party supports our policy. So this is not a hostile takeover, and it's not people who hate Democrats of America. We hate Democratic Party apparatchiks and Clintonites, neoliberals. So and they belong right now. Look, neoliberalism, which always was a pro-status quo ideology, but was sold to us in ways that it wasn't perceived that way for a while by many people, because it was sold very well by people like Tony Blair and Bill Clinton, is clearly now not just a reactionary ideology that supports the status quo. It's a highly conservative ideology. It exists to conserve the current status quo. Don't forget, markets are social constructions, and who are the primary builders of that construction are the people in government. We basically allow the laws and the parameters of the market to be, and even the breaking of the laws of the market to be set by government. If you think about how they don't pursue certain tax evaders and they pursue other people who don't pay their taxes. So those are social constructions, and what neoliberalism, and this is an ideology that runs from the moderate wing of the Republican Party, the previously clearly dominant wing of the Republican Party, to the previously clearly dominant wing of the Democratic Party. And so you basically had a domestic economic consensus that existed for about 35 years in the realm of politics, with only a few outliers on the left side of the Democratic Party. But then it got really reawoken by the Sanders campaign in 2016. And so we want to have what we call a friendly takeover of the party and the hostile expulsion of the forces that we don't want in the party, which still at the level of elected officials and the control of most state parties and the national party, they're still very much in control. So it'll be and it will be very difficult to achieve that. Political power in an internationally hegemonic dominant society, to win that, it's incredibly difficult for the left to really win significant power in any country in the world. Okay, but inside an imperial hegemonic country, it's a big lift. We have to be serious about what that means, what it's going to take, and the position of and the significant role of the Democratic Party anchoring those reactionary, conservative, globally hegemonic forces that we have to overcome.
Oh, so just a walk in the park. Sounds great.
Yep. An easy, nice stroll through a beautiful autumnal park.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to also give a little bit more intro to you, Alan, for our viewers who maybe may not be familiar with you, who you are and your work. Alan is a lifelong activist, and he's worked as a progressive journalist for the past 2 decades. He was the program director at KPFK in Los Angeles, a Pacifica Radio affiliate, from 2009 to 2018. He also coordinated Pacifica Radio's national coverage of elections. And before that, Alan was one of the founders of LA Indie Media. So I guess you were also creator and producer of the Ralph Nader Radio Hour, which I did not know.
Yeah, I am, and it's funny that I put that in my biography. That needs to be, because I also created the Nation magazine's still only podcast, and also the first Jacobin podcast, Jacobin Radio, and which still exists. And then there's a line in there about what I did around Occupy Wall Street, which in the presence of Margot Paez and Carlo American, I really would need to qualify before you would read that, if you were going to read that. It's sort of there just to sort of show people that, hey, maybe I saw something and I have some insight about society and such. But all I did was, but it's true, I was involved in organizing Wall Street for all the people that you all knew down at Occupy LA. I was out ahead about a few months before anyone else, for the simple reason that I had worked with Adbusters in the previous year. Mm-hmm. And that's why I don't say that, because I was never employed by Adbusters, but it's true. I did outreach to New York City activists and to New York City journalists starting in like July of that year, maybe even June.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I actually worked with the guy, Micah White, who was the specific guy at Adbusters who made the call for the actual.
Yeah.
People,
that was a... Go ahead, Carlos.
People have no idea how much work you do behind the scenes. It's like incredible.
I remain, a lot of things I'm very I won't let go of, because I'm committed to the projects. And so I continue working on them, even with the job that I have now, which is about a 2.5 times a full-time job. Yeah.
Well, we thank you for your hard work, Alan. And thank you for taking time to be on the show with us today. So I think we should just hop right into this. PDA has been doing a lot of work on Capitol Hill and in DC with the reconciliation bill. And we've been giving some updates on that and over the past several weeks. And every week it seems like it's worse and worse. So why don't you lay it all out for us, and let us know if it's time to pack up into a bunker, because we're never going to get the things we want. So
I actually liked Harold Myerson's take on it the day that the final outline, or the most recent outline from the White House, came out. And he said that, if this bill had happened and the good things that are in it were passed, and we had never had the prospect of it being twice the size, progressives and Democrats pretty much everywhere would be doing, cartwheels. And that's true. There are many things that are in there, from the tax credits for renewable energy, which is, basically how the government incentivizes the production of renewable energy, or can within our system most effectively, other than doing it by fiat, and they're clearly not ready to do that. And then universal pre-K. Well, I mean, funding for it, inadequate funding for it, but at least launching it, right, and establishing it as basically a governmental project and goal, as opposed to it being just on the wish list. The daycare provisions. What's so frustrating is that so many things fell off. Some of them, when you look at their popularity, like paid leave, that fell off as late as it did. That one actually shocked me. And part of the reason was that was one of Pelosi's priorities. And for the most part, Pelosi's priorities did survive, the ones I just name checked earlier. I'm surprised the CCC survived. And so I shouldn't say that. They'll take it off.
You don't know. Manchin's not done yet.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. In fact, the CCC potentially is a real game changer in society, because it is an employment project for youth, and that puts it into direct competition with something an imperial hegemon without a draft pretty much never wants to see, have any competition, which is the military. And so, of course, I'm an advocate for a universal full employment project where the government would perform the role of being employer of last resort. And hopefully the CCC is a model to build that up. So that's established, and that's a really good thing. Medicare drug pricing. Oh boy. How does something that can poll as high as 90% support among the general public not get passed? There was a poll that was done a study that was done by some political scientists, and it was before Bernie. It was about 2014, and it showed that the political positions held by the general public, they can win and become law. But in recent American history, they had only happened when they aligned with the wishes of wealthy Americans, that only wealthy Americans were having their agenda passed. And I wonder the degree when we look through what passed and what got cut, how much that this is the case with this bill. Why then would they pass things that clearly support, by the way, there is a provision from the PRO Act that still is in there. There's the immigration measure. Those are the two that might still get knocked out by the parliamentarian. But I actually believe the labor statute will pass. That might be one of the few things that really wouldn't be supported by wealthy Americans. But the rest of it, the rich people, when they understand that wealth inequality reaches a certain level, and you have a problem where workers are not wanting to go to their jobs, again, maybe making having a job be slightly less impossibly difficult for workers in terms of things like daycare. So you can actually free up part of the labor pool to be able to participate. You can understand how maybe rich people would support that at this moment, at least a sizable portion of them. But it'd be interesting to see how that polls out, or if there's enough polling data on some of these statutes. But when you look at Medicare expansion, when you look at drug price negotiations, I think one of the things we have to remember about who opposes Medicare for all, it's not just the insurance industries, right? It's also rich people. Rich people can get the best healthcare in the world in the United States of America. No comparison. There are doctors and specialists who will perform everything across the board in this country, rivaling and surpassing any place in the world. Rich people get that. They're so damn wealthy in this country that they don't even have to blink at the price. And because of that, they don't have to share waiting in line for any doctors. Okay? And Medicare for all is something then that they would view as an existential threat to the privilege that they view they deserve, which they clearly feel they deserve because they're rich people in our society. There are a few exceptions among the rich, but for the most part, we shouldn't lose sight of how strictly these class divides play out in American politics. That doesn't even touch on the role of corporations. Of course, those generally align with the polling interests of the wealthy.
But Alan, what harm does it do to give senior citizens free vision and dental through Medicare? I mean, they still have their private insurance. They still have access to all the best doctors in the world. Why would that be removed? Why would rich people? Why wouldn't that? Why would rich people be opposed to that? It doesn't seem that it hurts them in any way.
It probably goes towards a fear of more momentum for Medicare. I mean, don't forget the fact that Medicare hearing made it through, which I think was significantly cheaper than vision and dental. Dental was going to be by far the most expensive. And hearing, that's the first time we've had any significant expansion of benefits in classical Medicare since practically the 1970s, which goes to show they just don't want rich people don't want the program to exist even. The government pays for the majority of the healthcare bill in the United States of America, and that's because you just think it through logically. Where is most of the cost accrued? And it is by older people in terms of healthcare, and dying in this country will bankrupt you. If you have an extended illness, right? And so that Medicare and classical Medicare picks up the huge overhead costs of that, and thereby already between veterans and old people, basically, and then very poor people, but primarily because of old people, healthcare costs in the United States of America are already covered. The majority of them are covered by the U.S. government, by basically the federal government. It gets distributed out to the states and it's paid through the states, but it's the Medicare system. And that means that we're already paying for that. All of us are paying for that. And rich people don't want to pay for that. They don't want to see it strengthened. They don't want to see it improved.
Yeah, Alan, it's interesting because I also wonder if it's due to the dynamics of the type of capitalism that we live under. And I could be totally wrong about this, but my understanding is that under industrial capitalism, that there was an incentive from the industrialists to actually have government provide social services because it made it cheaper for the industrialists. But now we're under financial capitalism, and there's no incentive.
Absolutely. In fact, I think there are three prime groups of people who don't want to see Medicare for all and will oppose it. The healthcare industry and the health insurance industry, just group those as ones. It's only portions of the healthcare industry, but still significant portions of that, and of course, universally the health insurance industry, and then rich people, and then finance capitalists too. When Bernie Sanders won Nevada, the stock in health insurance companies plummeted, and when he lost in South Carolina, they snapped right back up. And they're very, as long as they exist and they're not threatened, they're very stable anchors for investment packages because they're actuarial institutions that are pretty much guaranteed to operate with some kind of profit. So, finance capital does not want to see this change at all.
Carlos, we only have a few minutes left with Alan. We have to let him go, but why don't you go ahead and ask him the last remaining questions that we have in the time for him.
Well, Alan, as far as progressives are concerned, because we see the discouragement that people have sometimes when they see the people's agenda not being pushed forward, or at least we think is some people think that it's not being pushed forward, but the reality is that we have great advancements. What is your opinion as to where we need to be focusing on? Because we are not going to get these great packages that Bernie pushed for. And those are realities, and there is so much some of our new politicians that we have in Washington can actually do. I mean, they do a great job, and people don't realize that. They think that some people are in the opinion that they should be doing a lot more, but it may not. We may not get everything that we want right now. What do you think?
Yeah, no, we're in a rough situation. When I spoke yesterday and I introduced Nina Turner, I spoke about there being look, whenever you say there's 2 different types of people or there are 4 different types of this or that, you have to understand these things operate on a spectrum with some overlap. But the way I actually introduced Nina was by talking about currently there there are three prevailing political philosophies in the country, and I related it to PDA's lobbying and the large middle group from, again, the moderate Republicans, and most importantly here to the conservative Democrats, centrist Democrats, where you meet with them and they will say one of two things to you. Either we agree with you, but we don't have the votes, or we sort of philosophically agree with you, but the way to get there is through this incremental change. Well, they've held government power over the last 40 years back and forth with the Republicans, and the endemic problems that we're talking to them about that need to change never change, right? It's just now, that's like established historical fact. Centrist Democrats and neoliberals are a conservative force in our society. They want to maintain the existing order, okay? And because of them, and the fact that they don't answer this thing, one thing they are doing is fueling one of the really newly prominent force in American politics on the far right, which is clearly anti-democratical, tyrannical, and their political philosophy is, yeah, those endemic problems exist. We're not going to do fuck all about them. Oh, can I swear?
Yes, it's okay.
Yeah, because we're going to take care of ours and not yours, right? They're basically white supremacists, right? And they're like, America's ours. It's not anyone else's. And it's really ours, the people we agree with, and to hell with the rest of you. That's a reactionary proto-fascist ideology we're familiar with from history. It's extant right now and prominent in various ethno-nationalist niches across the world. And so then on the left, there is now a rising political movement which says, yes, these endemic problems exist, and we intend to address them, and we intend to correct them and rectify that, and we mean it. And here are the policies that in the past have worked that we can apply, and here are the policies that are new to the circumstances that we're proposing that apply. Clearly, these are they're constitutively different than what the center is giving us as inaction, clearly constitutively different than what the right is giving us. And we are going to push to achieve those. Where do we win that argument? How do we build the growth for that? Well, we have to continue to make the argument to the general public. We have to, I personally think we really have to lean on the fact that these endemic problems, from climate change to wealth inequality to the impoverishment of public services, the things that the market cannot provide, healthcare, education, mass incarceration, structural racism in all of its forms and in the forces it applies across society. All of these things are not going to change. We will change them. They won't. And we have to build up popular support for this broad position and coalition of progressives across the country. I think we are the majority ideology, or at least the emerging majority ideology within the country. Now, as an emerging major ideology and force politically in the society, we do have to deliver. I do think we can be harmed by claiming victories that aren't victories. We have to be very upfront with people about what is falling short, or we're going to appear just like the centrists do in saying we have a solution for change, and then change doesn't happen. People know when change happens, right? They know when they go to their job, they can afford their housing, they can afford their food, they can get vacation time, they can have good health care, they can have good education for their children. None of those things are being provided for 75% of the population as it is right now. So, or more. You really have to go way up the percentile scales in our society to where you actually have what is security. Now, you have wealth there in the top 25%, wealth in the top 40%, but no security whatsoever. And you compare that to really existing countries in the world still today, because they haven't degraded their post-World War II social democracies, where you certainly have a kind of social security that doesn't exist here. You may not have household balance sheets with the appearance of wealth, because real estate property valuations, even in Western Europe, pale in comparison to the United States. But the sense of social security that they have, and you can see this in the health outcomes, diet, whatever indices they use to judge happiness. The United States is pathetic. Suicide, drug addiction. Even across certain things that progressives don't necessarily like to talk about, like family cohesion, crime rates, etc. These are all much, much better in other countries than they are in the United States. In fact, you take out average household wealth, which is completely skewed by the wealth of the wealthy in the United States, and almost every social indices, when you compare to other industrialized technological societies, the United States is at or near the bottom on almost every subject. If you take out about 40 countries in the world that we should, realistically be compared to. We have to change. We have to continue to push programs that clearly change the social equation and improve people's lives, and understand that it is going to be a battle. When I say it's a friendly takeover, that's because we're going to maintain the institution, because we're stuck inside this two-party system. I'm not sure how that changes. I don't even think instant runoff voting would change it if it was adopted universally. And so, why that is, I don't want to get into that. It's a very complex question. I know a lot of people study it, and there are a lot of different ideas and theories, but the one I've been leaning into is the fact that we do have relatively strong provinces, that is states, local governments and states, and yet we have two national parties. And the capacity of the national parties to lean on when there is an emerging third party rise anywhere else really overwhelms it. So at least that's a part of it. And so I think the two-party system, and also, the years that would be lost, given things like the climate emergency, to building a third party. We have this progressive wing in the Democratic Party. I really encourage people to in no way, waver on their politics, bring the full force of their radical left progressive politics into the Democratic Party and help us win control of the party, and then win political power in the United States of America and govern and change the world.
One last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Nina Turner.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts on, I mean, she's such a powerhouse.
Nina Turner is absolutely brilliant. I've been honored to be on a couple of steering committees with her, and I think we've had enough adventures together where I can say that she's a friend of mine. So that doesn't mean you should take anything I'm saying with a grain of salt. I think Nina Turner is a spectacular politician. I think that she is a very she does not, even in her talks publicly, which, we were together, Carlos, at an event 2 nights ago, and she brought up so many complex historical themes, right? And then her analysis and where she arrives at in terms of what she talks about, what needs to be done, is it's both accessible and very sophisticated politics that she advocates. But here's the thing, the accessibility of her voice. And the uniqueness right now of her voice. There are not any, not Bernie, not AOC. There's really nobody on the left, in the left political orbit with a national profile who is that forthright and speaks with that much sort of just clear, classical, straight shooting common sense. Her capacity and potential to connect with people is terrifying to the political establishment. It is, in my opinion, unrivaled in contemporary American politics. And if you hear all these sniping criticisms of Nina Turner, and you hang out with Nina Turner, first of all, most of them are complete BS. She's just a very inclusive person in terms of her social vision. And not only that, go further than that. And this is wherein she's just really the maturity of her spirit and her soul become apparent. She's also devoutly Christian person, and when she does castigate her opponents, there is always space in her heart for, almost in the way that in the best variations of Christianity that we learn, you can sort of instantaneously turn that around and embrace the person and forgive them and welcome them into the inclusive politics that she defines. So I think she's just a spectacular person, and the world would be blessed to have her in a significant political office and role of political leadership in our society. So that's what I think about Nina Turner.
Thank you so much, Alan, for joining us today. I know you have to run and get off. So thank you so much. And we hope to have you on again very, very soon.
I can't go without saying this. First of all, living in Southern California, Carlos American, everybody should watch this show, share it with your friends, and study what Carlos does too. And Margot as well. What Margot does these days too is deploying and employing her brilliance on really as important an issue as could possibly exist in the history of humanity, which is that we're destroying our habitat at this time. And she's bringing that her activism to bear in that realm. And again, what Carlos does here in Southern California, the tireless activism, is just visionary and brilliant. So I just honor you both, and it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you for being with us. You're such a mentor to all of us, to so many people across Southern California, and nation, really. You're such a voice, and we honor you and thank you so much for your tireless work that you do. And people don't realize how much you're actually caring for all of us. So much.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Thank you, Alan. All right, we'll let you go now. Take care. Have a great week. Bye-bye. Okay, Carlos, hello. Wow, that was amazing. It was so great to have Alan on. I wish we could have had him on for the full hour, but he had another meeting to go to right after this. He's an extraordinarily busy person, but an amazing human being.
Right. He's so gracious with his time. The time that is just amazing what he does for us and for the movement here in Southern California. We're blessed to have him here in LA. But let's dive into this a little bit, because there's a lot of stuff happening nowadays. Yesterday, I went to a protest, a march over in Pasadena for some of the healthcare workers. The nurses are battling over a Kaiser, over a new contract. But I was so pleased to have seen yesterday, there was something like 3,000, 4,000, maybe even more nurses and supporters marching in Pasadena. It was just incredible to see that. So what we are seeing right now is a rise of workers everywhere, where they are not happy with the contracts that they are giving or that they are in. We are seeing a revolt from workers where they are quitting their jobs and walking out. I think this is important, and we need to be paying attention to that, because people are not happy with their bosses, with their employers, with the greed from many of these employers that continue to, over the years, the decades, have taken advantage of workers. Pandemic has brought up to light a lot of those things that are hurtful to families and to workers everywhere. And people are realizing that they've been getting screwed over the years, that they have been taken advantage by their employees. So we are seeing a rise of labor. We are seeing labor becoming stronger. We are seeing labor advancing. We are seeing right now on Amazon the treatment that the employees, go through, the harmful practices. And I read somewhere that there are some employees over in state of New York by Amazon that they voted themselves to be unionized. So this is good things that are happening.
Yeah, that's great. I've also read some stuff. I mean, it seems like right now is a big moment for labor. And I think that part of it has to do with the pandemic. And the pandemic was really a kind of shock on the system. And I'm all about shocks on systems, because for me, I understand from reading academic literature on this, that when you have a shock on the system, that allows an opportunity for change. And the pandemic really, I think, showed workers finally that they're just treated like dirt. They're not treated like humans. Year after year, workers are losing their benefits, losing good pay. After the Great Recession, that hit 2007, 2009, so many workers were laid off, lost their jobs. The jobs that were created afterward did not have the same level of pay, the same level of benefits as the jobs that they had before the recession. So even though we were able to reduce unemployment from that point up until the pandemic hitting in 2019, those jobs that people were taking on were not jobs that were providing a living wage, were not providing benefits, and people were having to work, so many extra hours just to put food on the table, keep a roof over their head. The idea of owning a home now is just an idea these days for many, many Americans. And so I think that the pandemic really forced people to sort of look at themselves in the mirror and say, if I'm really an essential worker, if I'm really a hero here in this on the front lines, why am I not being treated like I am, and is it worth it? And I think a lot of people are finally saying, no, it's not worth it. I deserve more. So I mean, the unions make up such a tiny percent of the labor force right now. I think it's less than 10%. And so we're still very much at the beginning, but at the same time, there's no need to be in a union to strike and to demand either. You can have these wildcat strikes. So I'm hoping, Carlos, that we see a lot more of this going through the rest of this year. And I also think it's not a coincidence that this happens under a Democratic president either, because Occupy also happened under a Democratic president. So I think that there's something in the conditions. Maybe it's an opportunity, a sense of opportunity when you have at least a Democrat in office where you might feel like you can get something, like there's something in the air of like, maybe we can have some change right now. So I just throw that out there as an observation.
Right. And when we are discovering right now, sorry if that my back hurts a little bit.
You're a little tight.
Yeah, I'm a little tight doing so many things. I have some deadlines that I'm working on.
Oh man.
But look, what we are seeing right now is shifts that are taking place. And it's really important right now because there is opportunities within these shifts that are taking place. And we have to take advantage of that stuff. For example, climate change, right? All of a sudden, we are seeing a lot of people talking about that. I think this is really important because it presents opportunities for those people that have been working on this over the years. We have the media talking about climate change. We're seeing reports by the media. They're actually reporting some of the stuff that's going on. We are seeing politicians talking about climate change, although they are not coming out with solutions. Their solutions are years, into the future. By the year 2050, we're going to do this and this and that. It's like the time is now. We cannot wait. The world cannot wait until 2050. So there are opportunities right now, and we cannot lose heart. One of the things when I asked Alan regarding some of the stuff that we should be doing and stuff, and that I have been advocating for, is, we want to see a lot of changes in a lot of different things. But one of the ways that I always tell the people so that they don't get discouraged and that they can focus and that they can actually see some growth, not only with themselves, but in the things that they're working on, is to focus on the specific issues. Instead of being all over the place, working in 10, 20 different things, become an expert on something. If climate change is your thing, if that's what really worries you, get involved in climate change issues. Read on climate change, research on climate change, join groups that advocate for climate change, for climate action, get involved in that. And then you're going to start seeing the work that is being done on that issue, and how you can participate, how you can use your talents, how you can, spend your time that you have to give in getting involved with whatever those groups are fighting for. Whatever that part of the issue that they're fighting for, whether it's policy, whether it's doing activism, whether it's being creating anything that is constructive regarding to that issue. That's what we should be doing. And I think that you're going to find satisfaction because you're going to see where your work is going. That's what I've been advocating for the people, is to people getting involved, but just don't get involved in a little of everything. Get involved in something. Connect with something, with an issue that you are passionate about, whether it's education, whether it's homelessness, housing. There are so many groups on each one of those issues that you can be a part of and become good at it.
Yes, find one thing and get good at it. That's a secret to life, I think, actually. And not just in politics, but I think in life, find one thing you're good at and find one thing you like and get really good at it. And that's my problem. I like everything, so I try to be good at everything, and that takes a long time to do. But less about me. Carlos, you met with Nina Turner this week. You co-hosted her. We talked a little bit about this last week. We kind of talked up the event. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how the event went and what the turnout was like, and what were some of the things that Nina Turner talked about?
Well, first shout out to the Field the Burn Democratic Club of San Fernando for hosting Nina Turner. It's just an amazing group out there working in the San Fernando area. They are relentless in their work, although they are a small group, but they do such a mighty things. And those are the groups that I really enjoy. I love because they are about action. They're about doing things. So they hosted Nina. They worked very, very hard in being able to have an event where they invited Nina Turner. She accepted. She came out there. So want to give a shout out, big shout out to them. Nina Turner, amazing. She had received an award over in the Bay Area, and she flew into Los Angeles and was with us on Friday. She actually was with us Friday and Saturday. But where I actually met her was over in San Fernando at the Field of Burn Democratic Club. And she was just amazing as always, very humble. But her words are penetrating, are dynamite. She spoke a little bit about where we at right now and some of the stuff that needs to happen, we need to be doing. There is a live stream actually at the Bernie Sanders Brigade right here on this page where you could go back and see her. And just very encouraging, inspiring. Nina Turner is herself after suffering a defeat over in Ohio. She actually revealed some of the things that went on that a lot of people did not know because the entire establishment went against her because of again, she's a threat to the establishment, and she knows that, and I'm just encouraged that Nina Turner has not given up and is not walking away. That in my opinion, that's what makes a great leader. Is when you have somebody that pushes on in spite of the obstacles, even though that doors may close in front of you, you keep going. You find other ways. You move. You go around it. That's Nina Turner, and in my opinion, she's not only a good politician because she's a politician. She has been a former senator over in Ohio, but she's also an activist. She's also a grassroots leader, and I think that we need to recognize her for that because she is the voice of activism. She represents many of us, and she does it in a very, very, very smart way. She works in the inside and she works in the outside. So I watched her work over the years, and she's brilliant. But she needs our support. She needs our support. She's contemplating whether she's going to run again for the seat. The past time that she ran where she lost, it was a special election. So there was a lot that she was dealing with. But this time around may be different. So, she has not made that decision. She has not announced, but she's contemplating whether she's going to run or not. Regardless of what she does, she deserves and she needs our full support. Yesterday, I had dinner with her, with Susie Shannon, a tremendous leader here in Southern California. She advocates for housing and the unhoused. And we had dinner and we spoke about different things. But I can tell you this, that Nina Turner is just getting started. And whatever she decides to do, I cannot wait to hear the decisions that she's going to make. But she, the interesting thing about her is the questions that she asks. She asked us a few questions.
Interesting.
But they were thoughtful,
Yeah.
where I had to take a moment to think what she was asking me.
Yeah.
And, her response to our questions are always also very thoughtful. And I think that she's always looking at the big picture as she responds to the questions that we ask her. But one of the thoughts, was, imagine if Nina Turner was to come to California. They love her in California.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
California is Nina's country, but she doesn't live here. But can you imagine for a moment if Nina was to move to California, to Los Angeles area?
It's wild.
It was an earthquake over here. It would be the big one, as we say it. She would take the political grounds in California if Nina was to move here. But these are just thoughts.
Just putting it out there, out in the collective consciousness. Maybe it'll trickle into her mind.
So she worked so hard. She was very tired, spending a lot of time here in California and meeting with so many people. But she's very special to the movement. She's a voice that really shakes the every corner of society, and she's a threat because she speaks it as it is in a smart way, very eloquent. Her inspiration comes from her upbringing, as she lost her mother, where her mother was 42 years old and she had to step into a role, raising her siblings, her sisters and brother. Look, Nina is very special to all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Carlos, for that update on Nina Turner's visit to the LA area. I heard it sounded like it was just an absolute success for her. I think maybe she made a lot of great connections, and it was great that she was able to also be there with a lot of the local organizers and supporters, and not just the well-connected types. So it's fantastic that you were able to set that up.
Oh, and by the way, she also visited the Bernie's Coffee Shop yesterday.
Oh wow, how cool!
Coffee shop is a must for every politician, progressive politician, to come down there, because again, this has been a place dedicated to the grassroots, and there's a lot of organizing that takes place there on the grassroots. So I saw her right after she came from the coffee shop. So she was very excited to have been there, and so congratulations to the Bernie's Coffee Shop for having her there, and congratulations to Nina Turner for her amazing work again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much, Nina, for everything you do. And come on the show if you're watching, because we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
Well,
I know
Carlos,
she's busy, and we did invite her to come on the show, but unfortunately she has been very, very busy. She has a full schedule of things that she's doing, but she's just getting started, in my opinion. And the way she sounded, she's carefully thinking the next steps that she should be taking, and I love that. I love that about her. I love that about anyone that is in this road that we travel in, of activism and representation for the people. is our steps have to be measured. Sometimes there's challenges, there's discouragements, there's roadblocks, but we have to measure our steps. We have to be disciplined. We have to be thoughtful in everything that we do because we are representing the people.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's something that I tell the young people is that you have an opportunity to change your community, to change the world, to change many things. So being a leader, means that you have responsibilities. You taking on, you are representing people, especially when it comes to the political side of things, the social issues that you represent, that you're fighting for. It's a big responsibility, and you need a lot of support. People need support. I need support. I cannot get things done without the support of the people. So all of us need to take into account a lot of things as we are engaged in activism, and be mindful that our measures had to be measured. We have to think about every step that we take because it will affect something, because we are representing people or someone.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, Carlos, is there anything that happening locally that we need to touch on?
Well, we have the Rose Parade coming up, and
Mm-hmm.
in January 1st over in Pasadena. We have said that we want to bring the issue of climate change to the forefront. We're going to be organizing that. We're going to have literally 2 months to pull this through. So we are in the early stages of organizing that. I've been doing a lot of work talking to so many different organizations to see if they would like to join in. I think it's going to be a great time to organize because this is the time where everybody's focusing on climate change. So for us to be in the streets of Pasadena, following the Rose Parade and doing our march, the People's March for the Rose Parade, is going to be very important, especially with this issue that is really um, that is at the forefront of everyone, and everything. So we have some plans. We are going to be organizing on this, and again, talking to so many different groups that want to join and be part of this. So be
Great.
looking out for that.
That's great. That's great. Very excited about that march coming up in January 1st. And speaking of climate change, right now the COP26 is just starting. That's the UN Worldwide Conference. I believe it's being held in Glasgow this year. And COP is a big deal for climate change because it's the one time out of the year where all the major leaders come together, members of the UN, the United Nations, they come together and they try to hash out some sort of treaty or deal around climate change. And it's been going on for about 20 years and it's been very, very slow. The biggest achievement that they had was in 2015 with the Paris Climate Agreement. And obviously, that's called Paris because it was held in Paris, France. And that was really a commitment to keep the temperatures below 2 degrees Celsius, 1.5 degrees Celsius. But it was just an agreement that we will work towards that. And there were not a lot of concrete things put on paper in terms of action. So there's been a lot of, the phrase kicking the can down the street kind of thing, where passing the responsibility on to the next person, the next generation, let them deal with it, by 2050, always talking in the future. And it sounds like this COP is also going to be a bit of a challenge. And from what I've read, they're not expecting to get anything as monumental as the Paris Climate Agreement of 2015, which is very, very concerning because every year that goes by is one less opportunity that we have to keep the climate below 1.5 degrees Celsius. But I will add, because Carlos, when we talk to people about climate change and we kind of tell them what's going on and the reality of our situation, people tend to get very discouraged. They feel depressed. They feel hopeless. They feel like, they have no control over the situation. But Greta Thunberg, as she calls herself, Greta Thunberg, Greta is at COP26, and so she was interviewed recently. And there was, I think, an important point that she made was that it's never too late to take action. Yes, we have a decade or less than a decade to keep things under 1.5 degrees Celsius. But even if we miss that, we can still work for 1.6 degrees Celsius. We can work for 1.7 degrees Celsius. There's always a chance that we can stop this from getting worse. We just don't want it to get to that point, period, but we can still keep trying. And an important point that she made is that, we wouldn't be activists around climate change if we didn't have hope that we could change this, that we didn't have hope for the future, that we could still have a promising future for ourselves and for future generations. So I think we need to keep that in mind as we go into COP26, and also, as we're thinking about climate change and what we can do about it, and also the reconciliation bill, the infrastructure bill, things that are happening at the local levels, that there's always hope. There's always a chance. It's not too late for us to change this. And hopefully we can do it without incremental change, because incremental change is a little too slow, in my opinion, for climate change. But yeah, that's the message that I wanted to convey about this issue. Carlos, what are your thoughts on everything that's going on with climate change right now?
Well, the same thing is that we need to be paying attention by also participating. We have to participate. We read the news, we see what's going on, and there are great groups that are doing really, really good work behind climate change and climate action. We are hoping to highlight that work through the action that we're going to be doing at the Rose Parade. So you're going to be hearing about the different organizations that are working. We have a lot of indigenous groups that are leading some of these fights, on climate change. They've been doing that, over the years. Mm-hmm. But we are talking to some of the indigenous groups, so hopefully they can join us. They can come in. They're coming in from other states. So look, to do nothing is not good. You cannot just be an spectator. You got to participate. You have to get involved at any level, but get involved, for crying out loud. This is the only time that we have to do this. Things can get worse if we don't get involved. So whatever capacity you're able to be a part of anything, do it. Even if for some reason you cannot come out and you cannot, meet people, share articles, talk about it, open those conversations, participate. That's my message to the people. Get involved.
Absolutely. Just, if for younger people, talking with your parents, that's essential. Talking with each other, being a community and provide support for each other. These are all essential things to do. And as Alan said, you should study how Carlos does it, because Carlos is an exceptional organizer, highly successful at what he does. And we need more Carloses. We need, in the younger generations, we need more of him, more of the type of people like him to share the burden, because Carlos does a lot of work and he doesn't get a lot of vacation time for it.
I don't remember I had a vacation, but look, I'm happy with what I do. I recently retired from the U.S. Postal Service. I got a new job. I'm actually working for AIDS Healthcare Foundation as director for food and health. So we are going to be addressing food insecurity in the United States. I'm going to be coming to New York in about a week or so.
Wow, that's fantastic.
We are talking to folks over in Puerto Rico. There's a lot of work. I cannot tell you a lot of the stuff that is already in motion regarding food insecurity and the organization that I'm working for right now. But at the same time, my my spare time I dedicate it to my activism. And there's a lot of things that I'm supporting out there, that I'm working with different organizations, projects, but so much. This is who I am. Nothing's gonna change that. But I do plan to take a vacation sometime soon because I need it. My health, was a little questionable during the pandemic. I do have
Yeah.
a lung condition that I have, but I work around it, and I have to be active because that's what keeps me going. But it's very important for us to be engaged, for me to be engaged, and I'm always asking questions. I'm always talking to people. This is what I love to do, and I have several meetings today, scheduled meetings, so I have to also eat good, you know,
Mm-hmm.
good. I try to sleep as much as I can,
As
when I
much.
when I can. But we're gonna keep moving forward. There's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of good people out there. I gotta tell you, there's a lot of good people out there doing a lot of good work, and I cannot begin to name you all of them. But this is what gives me the great satisfaction of being part of the movement, is knowing that there is a lot of dedicated people out there doing a lot of good work.
Absolutely. Well, Carlos, we're out of time now. We're at the top of the hour, or at least we've hit an hour on this show. So I think it's time for us to wrap up. So any final thoughts for today's show? Any plans that we should be aware of, upcoming events?
No. I want to thank once again. I want to thank our good friend Alan Minsky for joining us today. As you heard, he's a wealth of information. He's one of those guys that have been doing so many things behind the scenes that people have no idea. But he's been pulling a lot of strings behind the scenes to help us all advance in our work. Without people like Alan Minsky, we will not be where we need to be at. But so our shout out today to him for his tremendous work that he's doing over the years. And there's many other people like him that has been mentoring all of us. So I just want to say, don't give up. Keep working hard. Keep doing what you're doing. Do more of it, especially if you're affecting people. A shout out once again to Bernie's Coffee Shop for the work that they're doing, highlighting some of those issues through Halloween, through the events that they are holding through the weekend. Today is the last night. I'm hoping to get out there tonight. I do have a deadline, so I'm hoping that to finish that deadline so that I can get out there to visit our friends over at the coffee shop. It's in the corner of Fairfax and Wilshire. It will start early, so come out. It's a horror night over at the coffee shop. I don't want to give it all up, but you need to get out there if you live in Los Angeles area, and join the Bernie's Coffee Shop and the good people over the progressives that are doing the great work. Thank you.
Well, that sounds like so much fun, and I think it's always great when activists have some fun, because all work and no play is just it's just not a way to live life. So this is fantastic. I wanted to add one more thing to what you said about Alan, or maybe two things. But the first one is that a lot of people don't know this, but Alan and the Progressive Democrats of America were a big reason for why Bernie ran. And in fact, they were after Bernie in like 2014, trying to convince him to run, because everybody wanted Elizabeth Warren to run, and in the primary with Hillary Clinton. But PDA and Alan in particular, I think, really worked hard to convince Bernie Sanders to do this. And Bernie was worried that if he ran, it was going to actually damage the issues that he cared about. And it turned out he was completely wrong, that there were so many people who needed to hear that message, who were on the same page as Bernie. And so we really owe Alan an immense gratitude. We're indebted to him and PDA for making all of this possible over the last two election cycles, because they've completely changed everything the entire narrative has changed. And also I want to say that, you know, I met Alan at Occupy in the media tent there. In fact, Alan walked up to me, introduced himself, and you know, I thought of this because you said he's mentored so many of us. But Alan was a mentor to me because he gave me so many tips on how to do my stand-up correctly in front of the camera, my delivery, and I really credit him for me improving on that end of things. And he also brought me to KPFK, got me connected into Pacifica Radio, and I was, and my friends there, I still talk to them. You know, I'm very close to people there. I got to work on a radio show there. I got to work for the Pacifica Evening News. Alan is just an amazing human being, just like you, Carlos. I mean, you both have been so wonderful and inspirational to me. So just thank you to you both, and thank you, Alan, for joining us today. And I really hope we can have him back again soon. But Carlos, we are out of time, and so we must sign off now. So I just want to thank all of our viewers for watching us today, for tuning in this Sunday morning. And if you missed the Alan Minsky interview, he's the executive director for the Progressive Democrats of America. That's at the first half of this show. So make sure you rewind to the beginning so you can catch that interview. You don't want to miss it. It's fantastic. PDA has been doing an immense amount of work on the reconciliation bill, trying to keep the important key components in it. And it's been an absolute struggle, as you all probably know, with Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, but the struggle continues. So please tune in again, as always, every Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. We simulcast on Facebook and YouTube. On Facebook, on the Bernie Sanders Brigade page, on YouTube, on Inside Out News. Please share us with your friends, hit the like button, turn on notifications, hit the follow button, and share us far and wide, because we're here every Sunday morning bringing you strategy and analysis for the progressive movement. I'm Margot Pius, your co-host, and over on this side, you can't even see my hand, but over here is our other amazing co-host, Carlos Marroquin. So we'll see you again next week, same time as always. And take care, wear masks, get vaccinated, and we'll see you all very, very soon. Take care, everybody. Have a really great week.